Hi, everyone. Just before we get going, I want to remind you that everything we talk about and discuss should not be considered as investment advice. The purpose of what we talk about on Catherine Murray Media and Markets on YouTube, as well as Catherine Murray in Conversation With on my podcast, should be viewed as informational and entertainment purposes only. Please definitely do your own research, your own homework, and definitely consult an investment professional before making any investment decisions. And also to note, some of us might hold positions in some of the stocks that we discuss. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Top 5 at 5. I am thrilled to be joined by Joe Rabil, and as you know, Rabil Stock Research. So I think the best in technicals. I've worked with Joe for many, many years, covering the biggest institutions in America, right, Joe?
That's right. Long
So,
time.
long time. So welcome, everybody. And I just thought how great it would be to get a technical take on the market, given the fact that we've really started 2022, hard to believe we're saying those words, but 2022 on a real down note. So in terms of the market action. So let's get a technical take. And then also, of course, within 20 minutes, we're going to give you a couple of ideas, 5 ideas, top 5 at 5. So Joe, give us a sense, though, in terms of what you're seeing in the market right now.
Yeah. So, I think you have to put it in the context of the market and what happened last year too, because last year was a great year. It opened up near the lows for the year and then pretty much traded all the way up. In fact, let me go ahead and share my screen and show you what I'm talking about. So if we pull this chart up, this is the weekly chart of the NASDAQ. And, it did have a correction. So this index had an up move and then it came back and corrected. But for the most part, the trend was put pretty much to the upside. It's actually a little bit more blatant when we look at the S&P, where we opened here and then pretty much moved up for the whole year without any real corrections along the way. So when we have that kind of a year, that's a trend year to the upside. You don't typically have big drops at the end of the year. You wait until the new year. And so that, I think, is what's playing out here. It has been putting off this move. Now, one of the things I did want to point out was going into the end of the year, look at what MACD, this is the momentum indicator MACD, and then another ADX is another momentum indicator. As price is continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, the MACD is dropping off, the ADX. These were giving major warning signs that we were losing strength in this trend. The problem is that it was an up year. So it literally waited until the first day of the new year to start kind of drop. Actually, I guess it went to a minor new high first and now has started to sell off. So I think that's why it started off so poorly, is because it had already shown a lot of weakness going into the end of the year.
And so what are you seeing now? Because we've seen, the market selling off. It's off the lows off the lows now, but in general, we're seeing 1% to 2% moves to the downside. So what kind of, are you seeing destruction, or is this just a normal correction, or what?
I think there's some more risk here. I would think that we want to head down to 14,000 in the NASDAQ. That would be what it looks like to me based on the backdrop of the way this was set up. Now, is it going to get worse than that? At that point, then we're going to have to evaluate the drop to there. But right now, I'm feeling like there's a pretty good chance, based on the way this is trading, that it's trading kind of loose. It looks like it wants to go down to the next key support area, which I think is right around 14K for the NASDAQ. And for the S&P, I would put that level probably around 4,200, 4,300, something like that.
Okay. So, when we're thinking about ideas now and today, when you look at the momentum in the market to the downside, you're basically also saying, though, that there's no screaming buys, it seems, correct?
Well, if you buy a stock that looks like the market or has been causing the market to go up, the Apples of the world, Microsofts, the Googles and stuff like that, then you're living with a lot of risk right now. So what I try and do is look for independent movers. I'm just trying to find stocks that are going and doing their own thing. What I will say is that right now, there are some stocks in the defensive area that, that are consumer defensive stocks that are acting pretty good, but they spent some time. So let's just start with the first one, which is Kellogg's. Now, this is quiet creeper stock. It hasn't done really anything in quite some time, but we can see that it's gone sideways. But notice what happened last year. So if I look at, this was the end of last year, I boxed this up.
Mm-hmm.
That whole year was inside 2020. So this whole year was inside this year. That's an inside. So I call that an inside year. A lot of people look at inside days or inside weeks. I look at inside years. So the fact that this spent the whole year inside like this, if we can make a move above this high for 2021, I would view that as a bullish setup. I think that's something that we want to keep an eye on because of how quiet it has been.
And for those of us with aging eyes, what level is that?
Well, last year's peak was around 68.5, 69.
Okay, so 68, 69. So you want to see it break above that, and then that would be one that could be interesting to buy.
I think so. I do. I mean, you could pre-guess this and maybe, buy a little bit to start here based on how it's acting and the fact that, market's been getting hit and this stock is actually going the opposite direction. But I would tell you that the probabilities of this moving higher get a lot better here pretty soon. The only thing I would tell you is that if it breaks out from an overbought, like if it just goes straight up and it's kind of overbought, then you could probably look to buy a pullback at that point. So, you can look at it either way. You could buy a partial position now and then buy the rest when it breaks out, or, you can let it play out and then maybe buy the first pullback. I'm not necessarily thinking it's just going to skyrocket. I think this is one that's going to evolve into a stronger stock this year.
And what's going on with the ADX?
Yeah, the ADX has been low. So ADX is an indicator of trend strength. And the fact that it has been below this 25 level for pretty much the entire year last year it's a sign that is sort of building up energy for a move. Mm-hmm. And the longer it goes sideways and the longer we have low ADX, the bigger the ultimate move once it gets going. So I'm attracted to a stock that's been being very quiet, just walking along, doing nothing, being ignored. And now all of a sudden is showing, look at this blue line, this ADX line starting to rise. So I find that kind of appealing, frankly, even though it hasn't officially broken out yet.
And Joe, just for new viewers and people who are trying to learn and understand the technicals, what is it that makes, what comprises the ADX? In other words, what makes the ADX turn up like it is now from looking at the blue line and start to show some strength, as you say? What is that reflecting?
So the simplest way to look at this is the green line represents the strength of the buyers and the red line represents the strength of the sellers. Okay. And when those lines separate, you see how the distance between them is getting pretty far. That's what causes the blue line to go up. Now, it's non-directional. This blue line doesn't care. So if you notice, when red was going up and green was going down, the blue line went up again. So it doesn't really care whether it's a strong bull trend or a strong bear trend. This line's going to go up if it's a strong trend either way. What we're looking for is an uptrend. We're looking for stocks that are showing green where the buyers are improving. But in this case, it's actually not even that. It's because the sellers have evaporated. No one's selling the stock right now. And if green can make a move like this and kind of break out above this area, that would probably confirm the breakout in price that's taking place. That's likely to take place, taking out the high for the year.
Got it. So do you always, and we've got other stocks to get to, and I love that this is already taking time out of our 20, but do you always look for that ADX to improving? Like, is that one of your key indicators, or is it going to be MACD?
Both. I use ADX to kind of, if I have a list of a couple hundred, ADX is going to kind of tell me which 10 or 20 I'm really probably should be interested. I use that in conjunction with price.
Okay.
And then I use the MACD to help me with the timing in most cases. Now, if I'm a trader, if I'm going to trade and just get in and out, then MACD plays a bigger role for even finding names. But ADX is the one that can help me. If I'm looking at a big list and I want to take it down to a small list, ADX is the indicator for me.
Okay. Let's take a look at another stock. So that was Kellogg. And again, 68.5, 69 is where you get really interested to step in. It's at 66 and change or so, 67 now.
Right.
Certainly far out beating the market today. So what's another one on your list, if we may?
Another kind of snoozer stock, but look, that's kind of what I'm seeing here. So we've got Altria Group, MO, breaking its long-term downtrend line. So I consider that a 1 when I look at a change in trend. So that would be the 1. It's breaking the trend line. And so it takes 3 steps to change the trend. 2 is coming back here and testing the low from before. So 1 is breaking the trend line. 2 is coming back and testing, which is what we're doing. And then if we can come out, hold on a sec. We put a horizontal line in here. If we come up through here, then that would be the 3 in a change in trend. And the likelihood is that this has shifted its trend from being a downtrend to being an uptrend. Now, if you notice, I'm not buying it at the bottom. I don't try and pick bottoms. And I don't really like to pick tops either. I want to make the meat in the middle. If it's a downtrend or an uptrend, I want to get more confirmation that the trend is shifting and play that move. I don't really want to call the top and I don't really want to call the bottom. I'm looking for significant shifts in trend. And so if this can come up through 52, I actually think what's going on here is pretty bullish. If we look at MACD, look at the MACD. So this is the 0 line in MACD. This red line that I just drew. Yeah. And every time it got up there, it failed. Yeah, it got through it a little bit, but failed. And now look at what happened this most recent time. Really blew through it. And now on the way down, it actually looks like it's cupping around and finding support in the area of that line. So to me, this is a pretty significant shift in momentum based on the MACD. The ADX, there's a lot of volatility in this trend. And when there's volatility, ADX lags. So we're not seeing the kind of strength yet in this, but if we look at the volume, so I just want to take a quick peek. The volume pattern, notice this is the average volume. Now we've had a few spikes in red, but notice how these groupings of green have started to show up. Its signs of accumulation have started to pick up more recently over the course of the last 6 to 9 months. So I just find that kind of interesting when you start to zero in on it. And even if we looked at the daily volume, you can see a lot of improvement here recently. So I'm kind of interested in this. Again, it's a little early. Again, it's more of a plotter rather than one that's going to skyrocket to the upside. But I like the overall shift in what's taking place.
And what's the level that we kind of want to watch or see in terms of when to step in?
I mean, my advice is to kind of, in this kind of a pattern, I would be willing to more like leg in, maybe start with a position, a smaller position, maybe do like a third of what you want to do. And then if it lives through this consolidation, so it's hitting kind of running up into this short-term resistance, if it doesn't sell off much from here, or we have earnings coming in about a week and a half, if it doesn't sell off too bad on earnings, then maybe you buy another third or something like that. And then coming through this high up here would be kind of like my confirming evidence up through 52.5, 53.
Okay. 52, 53 confirming. Okay. Interesting. I like a lot of these names, Joe, in the sense that, they're kind of steady eddies and have been for years. And you kind of, want to look and find the opportunities to step in.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, look, so this is the monthly chart. Look at this. Look at how long this has been going down. This has been years of declining. And now, so this is the 18-month line, that line here, and that was declining. Now, all of a sudden it found support at that line. So, I mean, that's a pretty big shift. Now, I don't know if we're going to go through another one of these periods, but I like the idea of buying something that's in the midst of a turnaround or looks pretty good, and it's paying a 7% dividend in the meantime.
That's what I love. Seriously. Low
Yeah.
interest rate environment. Yeah. And again, that's Altria, ticker is MO.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at another one, Joe.
Let's go to BDX, Becton Dickinson. So
Okay.
this one is funny. I've already outlined last year. You see the high and the low from last year?
Yeah.
Well, look at 2020's high.
Big difference.
2020's low. And what do we have? What did you learn? We just talked about this on K.
Oh, inside.
It's an inside year. So
God. Thank God I was paying attention.
Yeah, good job.
I always am, but
this is really interesting because it was very quiet. I mean, look at the difference in the high and the low in this year and this year. I mean, this is very, very quiet. Normally quiet is bullish. Someone has been sneaking into this, I think. Whereas wide swings and big fluctuations is usually distribution. Tight patterns like this is usually accumulation. One thing I want to point out, though, is looking at the monthly chart on this. This is really kind of funny because if you look at this MACD, look at where it was back in 2018 when the stock was up here. It was very overbought. That's how far it was from the zero line. It has spent all this time working its way back down to neutral, which is the zero line here. So I'm looking at a stock that had a big run to the upside and has now spent the last 3 or 4 years working off an overbought condition that looks like it's worked off to me, and it was an inside year. So just a lot of little things kind of developing here that I think are pretty attractive. The other thing I like is this low ADX pattern. All 3 lines below 25 for an extended period. When that happens, it's storing energy for a move. And and it's done the same thing on the weekly chart. So look at how long it's been below 25, this blue line, for an extended period. And again, very, very quiet swing. So I don't know. I mean, you know, you never know with these stocks. Maybe this doesn't break out. Maybe it doesn't take out the high from last year, which was 267, 268, something like that.
What do you mean by that?
In other words, it's possible that it just doesn't break out. But if I were a betting guy, if someone put a gun to my head and said, hey, you have to buy it or sell it, I would buy it right now. And if someone said, do you think it's going to take out the high from last year? I would say, yes. I think in other words, if I have to give a yes or no, then I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. So it's currently trading at 261 and change. And you think it probably can take out last year's high, 267. Yeah.
Now, we'll just look at one other chart here. Look at what the relative strength line is doing in this. So the black line is showing you when it's declining, it's underperforming the S&P. And when it's rising, it's outperforming the S&P. Well, we've had these little moves, but it's never gotten above this moving average, really, not in any significant way for the last few years. Wow. So the fact that this is starting to turn ahead of the breakout is enticing to me. It's a sign of improvement. So little things like that are just intriguing me about this.
And let's take a look at another stock. We've only got 3 minutes left, if you can believe it. 5.
Oh, okay. That's probably good. So maybe you just get 4 out of me, or I can do 2 quick. All right.
Too quick.
Deere, strong move to the upside, and then this has been a pause. So big move to the upside and no real signs of sellers based on the ADX. And look at how the MACD was overbought and worked back down to 0. I mean, that's pretty attractive. So I'm pretty intrigued by this. I think this is pretty attractive stock.
Okay. Can you buy it now? I
think you could. I mean, the stock is actually having, I think it's actually, it's up 70 basis points today with the market down 1.5. So it's been kind of resilient here. It's been doing nothing, going sideways for about 6 to 9 months. And it looks like they're starting to buy it again.
Okay. Let's take one last look at another stock. One last stock.
Okay, let's take a quick look at MetLife. So MetLife did break out of this big area last year. And now it's using that prior resistance as support on a pullback. You see that?
Yeah.
So what was resistance is now becoming support, and now it's taking out the most recent highs again while the market is having a really tough time. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. Frankly, I think this is a pretty attractive pattern. ADX pattern is bullish because this drop is actually based on the selling strength, which was not strong. And MACD was overbought and has worked it all the way back.
Okay. All right. We got a lot of good ideas there. And it's so interesting too, to your point that, MetLife, Deere, like they're all far outperforming the market today. So Joe, that was awesome. So 5 conviction ideas in 20 minutes. I think that's so helpful for people, and also with an understanding. And tell everybody about, your product that you offer.
Right. So I have a subscription product now at www.rabilstockresearch.com. It's normally $100 a month, but I actually have a coupon code called Catherine. If you type Catherine in the coupon code, you can get the first 2 months for $50 to get a test and see if it works for you or not.
Awesome.
I send out about 2 to 3 reports a week, trying to generate a lot. Now, it's a US based product, but I go through thousands of charts trying to identify stocks that look attractive. And, if the market starts to really kind of act a little, like it's been, I do cover the market. I look at the sectors. I try and point out when it's a more beneficial time to be aggressive and when maybe to pull back a little bit. So it's all part of the service.
Okay, that sounds great. Awesome. And I love the research, of course. Joe, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Enjoyed being on again.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.